Hey, all, Aaron.Chapman, Security National Mortgage, back at you with some more information here. And really more, there's not a lot changing in the market when it comes to what's going on with the rates, with, what the effects of the Fed. But I wanted to just throw some stuff back at you guys because I'm getting hit with a lot of things. Since I was, the Monday update with the hits that we were taking on over the weekend from all the communication, want to hit on a few things. One, I got some calls from people, when the interest rates did what they did and they're expecting them to go down. We all thought they were going down. We had the freak out in the market and the interest rates spiked. People actually asked me, several said, how is it you did not see this coming? I was kind of taken back by that. And I had to think for a second, I'm like, we wouldn't be talking if I did see it coming. Because ultimately, if I saw this kind of thing coming, I would have seen a lot of other stuff coming. I would own my own country somewhere, stocked with the most amazing resources and the most exotic animals, and I'd be in a loincloth hunting them some bitches down with my pocket knife, because that's what crazy rich some bitches do. So it's one of these things where none of us would see this happen. This is way out of the left field that happened here. So we're in it together. Let's try not to point blame on anybody with this whole thing, because nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw this effect. Because there's so many things that cause this ripple. It's not one thing. It's not just coronavirus. There's so many things that have caused this ripple that's way deep into the economics of our country. The other thing that keeps coming up, and I've talked about it already, but I'm going to keep talking about it, is how does the Fed rate cut translate to interest rates? Again, it doesn't. The Fed rate cut has to do with the state of the economy. They're doing that to keep the banking system in flow. And sometimes it does trickle down in some ancillary ways, but it doesn't directly affect our interest rates. The Fed does not direct the rates for what we do. This is a commodity. Mortgages are a commodity. You're borrowing, you're basically getting something. The higher the supply, the lower the demand, the cheaper the price. We talked about this before. The higher the demand, the lower the supply, the higher the price. Right now we got huge demands, supply coming in and out. It's going to swing all over the place. There's other questions. What about the 10-year? The 10-year's at an all-time low. Why is, that's got to be directing mortgage rates. The 10-year's not associated to the mortgage rates either. The only thing that makes them correlate whatsoever is they're both a bond. But think about the 10-year. It's a 10-year bond. Whoever puts their money in there is getting payback over 10 years, right? There's a 10-year contract, if you will. We're doing 30-year loans. They're nowhere even correlated. One's for 30 years, the 30-year mortgage-backed security that somebody can get paid back as long as 30 years it could take them to receive their investment back, plus their interest. The 10 years, 10. They're not the same. They're just both in the same sport, if you will, but they're not playing in the same type of stadium. They're slightly different, or quite a bit different, in fact. Where they get their money is different. Their purpose is different. So if you really want to understand what drives loans, where the mortgage-backed security originated from, watch The Big Short. I tell people, watch that thing. That tells you a lot of good detail. Now, I got to caution you. Watching The Big Short is kind of like watching a prison documentary. It's not something you want your kids watching, because there's content there that's not going to be conducive for children. So be ready for some of that. But in the same respect, it has a lot of great economic data. Kind of like the prison documentary. You get to learn a lot about economics. It's not the kind of economics we all practice, but it's a form of economics. But I want you to pay attention to a couple things in that. Pay attention to the character that plays Lou Ranieri with Solomon Brothers. That explains the origination of the mortgage-backed security and what it is, what drives the source of the funds for all the banks to lend, not just Security National. This is everybody lending for mortgages. The other thing I want you to take a look at, just for fun, figure out who the character is that plays the real estate investors. There's only one that has multiple properties. Very interesting that that's who they chose to portray a real estate investor. And I'm hoping all my real estate investors here feel a little bit differently than who that person is. So I'm going to circle back around next week, after this weekend, after you guys have done your homework, watch The Big Short, taking notes, because this is going to help us to understand what drives interest rates because of where the money actually comes from. Now, the other thing that I really want to kind of go off on a little bit of a rant here is there's a lot of people asking, I need to refinance. I want to get a better rate. Well, they just got their loan last year. Their interest rate's 5 3/8 or something, 5.5. It's on a $60,000 loan. Guys, this guy tell you, quit that. It doesn't help you. You're spending all this money, $3,000-$4,000 to drop a small payment on something. It's a very small payment. I know you're thinking the cash flow is going to help you, but I've talked about this a lot. We're talking about a long-term instrument here, 30-year instrument. They're loaning you they're basically giving you 80% of the capital to buy your business. You're paying them back over 30 years. We live in an inflationary environment. With the rate of inflation as we are today, I know the Fed says it's about 1.5%, but that's what they measure, that they can control with monetary policy. It's not true rate of inflation. Look at the chapwooడింdex.com, where they go into specific inflation on specific areas. You guys in California, I'm feeling bad for you. Not only because your inflation is through the freaking roof, but right now you're experiencing a form of martial law, kind of. It kind of sucks. But it's the reality of where you're at right now. But look at that. The rate of inflation is very, very, very high compared to what they're saying. What's the dollar doing with inflation? It's declining. You're paying this person back. They gave you, let's say, a $100,000 transaction. They gave you 80 grand to buy your business. This is a business, by the way. It's not a commodity. You're not just spending money and going to debt. You're buying a business, mostly with somebody else's money. And somebody else is paying them back for you. Your tenant is paying down the note. As they pay down that note, let's say it's a $100,000 purchase. You used $80,000 from somebody else. You put in your 20. Your tenant over here is paying off that $80,000 for you over 30 years. Divide that $80,000 by 30 years. That's $2,666.66 per year. Add that on top of your $20,000. Your $20,000 just grew by 13.33% of the original $20,000 every year. Now, I realize there is an amortization table here. I get that. We can get into that argument all we want, but let's just look at basic numbers. Look at that growth. That's outpacing everything. Now consider the fact that you get to raise rents to pace inflation. Think about that. The last average I had heard was about 3.6%. I can be wrong with that, but let's just say we'll go with 3 for the purpose of this conversation. If you got a $100,000 property renting for $1,000 a month, you can conceivably raise that $1,000 by $30 a month next year. If you're getting $200 a month in cash flow and it just went up to $230, you had a 15% gain on your cash flow, jump by 15%. That's huge. Look at how leverage is benefiting you. Now, think about that person who gave you the 30-year fixed money. They're not getting paid back for 30 years. What's the dollar doing with inflation? If you're at a nominal 7%, I'm sorry, California, you're not going to feel that, but let's say you kept it at 7% because of your particular expenses and how you spend money. You're not paying them back the $80,000. You're not paying back the $74,000 in interest, even if your interest rate was 5.5%. You're paying back somewhere in the range of $64,000 and change when you recalculate every single dollar as it leaves your hands and compared to the value of the dollar the day you started with that $80,000 loan. You're not even paying them back what you borrowed. A 30-year fixed loan is a huge asset. Think of it as such. Right now, we can still get 30-year fixed loans. I don't know how long. There is a lot of talk that after the election, they may go away when they move Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship. If that happens, I don't know what's going to happen. Don't ask me what's going to happen because I have no clue. I don't have an idea what they're going to try and do there. So if it does go away, you better be working on getting the 30-year fix now and quit trying to figure out when's the rate going to be at the optimal point. I know a lot of people is trying to wait for the optimal time to get in. I'm sorry, guys, but if you're sitting on the sidelines and you're in the championship football game and you're trying to wait to jump in the field when it's the optimal time to get the highlight reel, the only ones getting on the highlight reel are the people who are on the field. So get on the field and stay on the field. This is your business. There's blood in the streets right now. There's some people made fortunes. Now, you got to be comfortable with everything you're doing. You got to be comfortable that whatever it is you're doing is going to benefit for you for your future. I want you to feel confident in what you're going. Please be patient with us. I know we've got a lot of people right now waiting on pre-quals from us. I'm sorry. Right now, we've just been inundated with a lot of these questions you just went over. We're trying to answer every one, but it's not a simple answer. As you can see right now, we're almost 9 minutes in, and I'm just barely touching on this stuff. If I go into the depth of the economics behind it and some of the real story behind all that's happened, it's a half-hour conversation, and we're getting hundreds of calls. So please be patient. We've got a great team working for you. I've got Ellen Schmidt, Carla Rausch, Sandra Gall. I got all my processors. I got Samantha trying to schedule time with you. I've got Jen and Brienne working their guts out. Brandy, Christina, Ann, Andrea, Nicole. Mitch. They're working their guts out to try to take care of you. Eric Fikes getting the underwriting done. We're hiring some new people. We're going to do our dangest to take care of. Just be patient with us. There's a lot to get done, but when it's all said and done and it all settles out, it's all for your benefit. So thank you for the trust. We sincerely appreciate it. I'll continue to bring more stuff out. We'll talk about The Big Short the first of the week.